Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at another article from Bustle.com titled 4 Things Women Deal With When Traveling That Men Have No Idea About, written by Susanna Weiss. Now this nicely follows on from the last article where we discovered that poverty was sexist. Thank you very much Bustle.com for that. Now before we get started, I want to thank T-Bing for sending me this article. I also want a sandwich. So, oh Sammich Wench. I love that face paint so much. That is Tape It to What. She's relatively new. Please go check her out. Channel link, like T-Bing's, is below. Now, just before we address each of the 4 points made by Susanna with regards to gender inequality while traveling, I want to look at the 3 paragraphs before to understand why this article was written and also to try and understand the author's position and/or mentality. I recently decided to try a couch surfacing website to find people to stay with while I was traveling, and I was struck by all the sexual harassment I had to field before finding a couch. This, I realize, is one of many things women deal with when traveling that men may not understand. I actually had to look up the term couch surfacing. While it's not my thing, I'm sure there are many that enjoy partaking in couch surfacing. Now, to address the point you make, I would argue that you assume men do not have to deal with the same issues you did on the website, but as you cannot support it, I'm going to dismiss it. It is at best an assertion, but this very assertion leads you down this rabbit hole, so we're going to carry on playing. Lifestyles that involve travel are becoming more and more popular, which makes it especially important to be conscious of the people who get a subpar experience when they travel due to social inequalities. Do these same people put their reviews on Yelp? I'm just curious. I also want to know if the societal inequalities were a considered factor before you made the conscientious decision to go there in the first place. Not that it's a valid excuse, but it is a curiosity on my part. When I first signed up on the couch surfacing website and announced I was looking for a couch to crash on, I got several dozen offers, all of which were from men. Well, that's all rather interesting, as it is well established women are generally more generous than men. You'd have thought you would have found a few more women whose couches you could have crashed on. That said, it's all dependent on location. One told me he had a room in his bed, and another called me cutie. The one I went with, who had good references and didn't raise any red flags, didn't say anything inappropriate on the site or make me feel unsafe when I stayed with him. But after I left, he texted me to tell me I had such deep eyes, and he wanted to kiss me when he looked into them. So several dozen offers, all of which from men. Let's take you literally. 7 times 12 is 84, 2 of which were hugely inappropriate, and I hope you reported them to admins. The one you settled on? Fine, we'll deal with that in a moment. This means that of the 84, there are 81 profiles left over. I am curious as to why they were left over. What was it about them that made them inappropriate? As you were so keen to point out the 2 that were clearly sexist as fuck. Now, with regards to the guy you settled on staying with, how is it sexist that he hit on you after you stayed with him? He clearly felt something and all you had to do was tell him no. Him feeling the way he did and saying what he said is not indicative of sexism or some kind of gender inequality. If anything, it tells us that you two hit it off quite well and developed a bit of a bond that he felt could be taken further. As this experience makes evident, women and feminine-presenting travellers face some unfortunate predicaments, which can in turn lead to unequal opportunities to explore other places cheaply and benefit from the connections and adventures you get from that. Here are some things women deal with when they're travelling that reflect and further gender inequality. There are no words to explain how utterly ridiculous this is already. How she's managed to get from 2 dickheads on the internet to one guy hitting on her after she stayed with him, to societal inequality and everyday sexism. It's very Anita. Anyway, let's go through these because I'm sure they're going to be just as amazing as the earlier comments. Sexual harassment. Well, of course this had to feature, and you could not have picked 3 more perfect images and comments. After my couchsurfing experience, I asked a friend who uses it about her own experiences. She said she had one host try to kiss her and another push his and her bed together. She also described being sexually harassed by a taxi driver in a foreign country, and I wasn't surprised. I myself once had a hotel staff member grab me and kiss me without my consent on my way back to my room. These situations lead us to feel unsafe wherever we go, even around the people who are supposed to keep us safe. The constant vigilance required to assess whether or not we're in danger of sexual harassment or assault takes away from our ability to enjoy a trip and gain valuable experiences from it. You use lived experience as evidence, which has a very limited amount of merit to it. I'm not now denying what happens to anyone, but you shouldn't use it as evidence unless there is proof to support it. I would love to know where your friend stayed, country and city-wise, as you can't now say it is the same regardless in all countries, all cities, all cultures, and I'm also not going to use the country as an excuse, but it is very hard to force other cultures to behave in a way that you deem acceptable towards women. I would also like to know if your friend took it to the police. Let's face it, education and enforcing of law is important, and these people need to know it is unacceptable if the whole thing was true to begin with. Now, I had intended on commenting that you'd be safer staying in a hotel, but you had that included here too. So I have to instead point out that if you're going to use a website to find a couch to crash on, you are going to struggle to find someone that is truly trustworthy. Even poxy Yelp reviews aren't truly accurate, because they're just reviews, much like any site that has ratings. Now, you later talk about feeling unsafe and how it isn't right. Well, we live in a culture that allows people to promote the idea of rape culture and patriarchy. If you are so deluded to believe they exist in the West, then you're going to be prone to overthink. I won't deny other cultures have very different ways of life, some of which we might find deplorable, but unless you have a solution to promote change there, you are just venting in a general way, implying that it is everywhere. Fear-mongering about travelling alone. I get the feeling this one carries on from the last and will contain equally weak arguments. Adding to the fear we develop based on actual experiences we have while travelling, we also receive constant warnings about travelling alone as a woman. My first time staying in a hostel by myself, I was so freaked out by every movement in the room that I couldn't sleep, even though nothing happened there that posed a threat to me. While, as I mentioned, the threat of sexual assault and harassment is real, people often exaggerate the dangers of travelling as a woman and make men feel like they're immune to being attacked when they're not. The fear that this instills is enough to deter us from even travelling. So you start by confirming that there is an actual problem, which you put under the banner of fear-mongering, and you end up deflecting onto men rather than actually addressing the concerns. Also, you generalized again. You could have easily been more specific about which nations are a lot less kind to women, or ones where you're more likely to be sexually harassed. Why not simply state them, and then we can proceed to tell you why you're more likely to be harassed there, and what is needed to promote change there. Not that that is a solution, of course, because let's face it, different cultures operate very different ways, and some aren't going to listen. The reason guys aren't given as much thought of as women is because men are often regarded as more capable of protecting themselves. That is not to say there are no women out there that can defend themselves, though. I personally would recommend that if you intend to travel alone, you look up that country, city, state laws and take necessary precautions to ensure you are safe. Think of it like a first aid kit. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. This applies to men and women. No fear-mongering required to say that, as it is basic common sense. Criticism of our looks. Amy Schumer is not the right person to represent this. She's voicing Barbie, for God's sake. One morning I caught a bus to visit a friend after a night out partying with another one, and I admittedly looked like a total mess. I was half asleep, I was wearing a giant sweatshirt from my ex that I just can't seem to get rid of, and my hair looked like I'd wiped out in the ocean. But I figured it wouldn't matter because a friend wouldn't judge me. Right? Wrong. After I went to the bathroom halfway through lunch and put my hair up, he said, "I guess you should have gone to the bathroom before lunch so you could have freshened up." This comment was totally inappropriate. We have better things to think about when we're in the middle of a trip, like not getting lost, and don't need people making us worried about our hair. I feel like the simplest answer to this is more appropriate to a breakdown. You got butthurt that someone cracked a joke at your super casual appearance. Learn to take a joke. You admit it yourself, you looked like a total mess. So someone pointing it out with a smidge of sarcasm is to be expected. We all get that, but most of us know how to take a bit of banter or sarcasm or criticism. Also, friends are the best at being critical and judgy. My friends certainly are. They are massive cunts in that regard. "Oh, your tie's a little off." Dickhead. "You should probably learn to polish your shoes with shoe polish and not horse cum." Retard. True story. People looking to protect us. Yeah, this is my favourite one. You'll understand in a moment. I mean, who doesn't love a good old white knight's tale here and there? People, especially men, often operate under the assumption that women, particularly women doing something supposedly dangerous by themselves, are in need of protection. This can result in insistence on carrying our bags, giving us recommendations, or accompanying us somewhere when we've already got it under control. In the worst situations, these people are entitled men who feel we owe them something if they assist us. Once, after a guy tried to sexually assault me in a foreign country, another listened to my story, told me he was so sorry, and asked for a kiss. Yet another was kind enough to walk me back to my hotel, but then told me at the end that it was a shame for such a beautiful girl to be crying. Such actions make it hard for us to trust people when we actually do need protection. These inequalities reflect other inequalities women face on a daily basis, and they all need to be rectified in order for us to travel and live more safely and comfortably. There is nothing more dangerous than a man helping a poor defenseless woman by carrying her bags and recommending stuff, or accompanying you and you've got things under control. I really hope you, the author of this, can see how utterly ridiculous this sounds. Why this article is so flawed when your logic is so full of paranoia, all of which is of your own making. I once helped an old lady carry her luggage over a bridge. Was I after something? No, I did it because she was not able to. But to someone as silly as you, this is sexual harassment and proof of benevolent sexism or other such horse poop. The claims of entitlement are worthless and only reinforce the need to keep idiots like you away from civilized people. The next little gem is your refusal to name the foreign country where you had these two instances that are truly terrible, and end up on something that is nothing more than a feeble attempt at cheering you up. But you took it the wrong way and instead interpreted it as proof of sexism. Kindness does not mean sexism. The two things before were. Now I want to end this by stating there are some genuine instances that are criminal in this article, but your lack of specifics with regards to location make it hard for me to say whether it is indicative of actual sexism or an isolated instance. Thank you all for listening.